The obsession that never seems to die. Cults. Cults are a breeding ground for curiosity from people young to old to all across the globe. From popular cult minds such as Nexium, Charles Manson, Angel's Landing, and many more. Today we dive into the harrowing minds of cult leaders and their followings to gain a better insight as to what really went on behind closed doors and what it was like to survive some of these horrific events. Charles Manson. A name which doesn't need any real background to explain the terrors which disrupted the greater Los Angeles area. 50 years after his most heinous acts, he is still synonymous with the title of cult leader. Manson's group formed in 1967 in San Francisco, and later that year migrated to Los Angeles, where he tried and failed to establish himself as a musician. Manson became obsessed with the Beatles song Helter Skelter, and started using the term to describe a race war he believed would usher into the apocalypse, and in August 1969, he sent a group of his followers to a house in Benedict Canyon and told them to kill everyone inside. The victims included actress Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, and Jay Sebring. The following night, Manson's followers murdered Rosemary and Leno LaBianca in their home in Los Feliz. Some people believe Manson ordered the murders because he thought it would kickstart his Helter Skelter concept, while others think he believed the Tate house still belonged to a music producer who refused to give him a record deal. Various members of his cult confessed, and Manson and 5 others were indicted on charges of murder and conspiracy to commit murder. In January 1972, Manson and 3 others were found guilty, and on March 29th, all 4 were sentenced to death. The absolute horrors that real people had to endure were shocking and disruptive of the lives of many. Not to mention the real people who were so brainwashed by Manson that they followed his every single request without hesitation or disdain. The movement for the restoration of the 10 Commandments of God. Now, this one really upsets me because hundreds of people passed believing in something that was told to them by people they trusted. And even after putting faith into them and building relationships, it was burnt to the ground in one swoop. This sect formed in the Kengu district of Uganda in the late 1980s and taught its members that they had to follow the 10 Commandments in order to survive the apocalypse, which the leaders believed was coming in the year 2000. When January 1st, 2000 passed without incident, members began to question why their leaders had failed to get their apocalypse date right, and leaders predicted that the real end would come on March 17th. It did, but not because of anything supernatural. The leaders set fire to the movement church, killing as many as 530 people inside. Authorities later discovered the bodies of more victims at the group's other properties in Uganda, and concluded that the leaders had orchestrated the killing in response to turmoil caused by the repeated failure to predict the apocalypse. Jim Jones. In the 1950s, Indiana native Jim Jones founded a church that he promoted socialism and equality with religious elements of Christianity. As the years progressed, he demanded more and more followers to join his group. In the early 1970s, Jones moved his group to California and set them up in a commune-like settlement in Redwood Valley. Jones eventually came to believe that nuclear war was imminent and moved his followers again to the South American country of Guyana, which he thought would be outside the potential danger zone. The group lived there for several years as the People's Temple Agricultural Project. But after former members started speaking out against the church, San Francisco Congressman Leo Ryan decided to travel to Jonestown to investigate claims of abuse. Temple security guards opened fire on Ryan's group, and back at the settlement, Jones ordered his followers to drink a cyanide-laced beverage where the phrase, "drink the Kool-Aid," came from. A total of 918 people died in the incident, and until 9/11, it was the largest loss of American civilian life in history. Angel's Landing. a 20-acre compound outside of Wichita, Kansas, where Lou Castro and a small group of people lived an expensive and extravagant life in the early 2000s. Castro's followers were convinced that he was an angel and a seer who could look into the future and know when you were going to die. Suspicious of Castro's luxury vehicles and money that no one could explain, law enforcement took an active interest when Patricia Hughes, a member of the Angels Landing community, tragically turned up dead on the compound in 2003. Following her death, Patricia's husband died in a freak accident in 2006. Local detective Ron Goodwin dived into every bit of personal and financial information he could find on the people living at Angels Landing. What he found was disturbing. Expensive life insurance policies were taken out on people in Castro's circle and cashed in by members when someone of the makeshift family accidentally died. This pattern occurred around every 2.5 years, but the detective couldn't find any records for the mysterious leader Castro. In 2010, Castro moved from Kansas to Tennessee and adopted a new identity, but he was soon arrested by the FBI for aggravated identity theft and fraudulent use of Social Security card number. During Castro's 2-year hold in federal prison, Goodwin and the FBI discovered that Lou Castro was really Daniel Perez, a man from Texas with multiple police reports, including a case involving unspeakable crimes against 2 girls until he fled Texas. Through interviews with members of the committee, they uncovered Perez's abuse of women and girls at Angels Landing. Perez was charged with 28 felonies, and in February of 2015, he was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 80 years in prison. Nexium. Founded in 1998, the group was positioned as a self-help organization with workshops and classes on empowerment. Nexium amassed more than 18,000 followers across North America until 2017, when Nexium members came forward to expose the abusive practices of the secret society within the group. Women were recruited under false pretense that they were joining a sisterhood, but ended up joining a cult. A pyramid scheme existed within the group, with Raniere, whose members called Vanguard, at the top, masters who recruited other women, and at the bottom were the newest recruits who were referred to as slaves. As a former member recounted that in order to be admitted into the secret club, she had to give her master compromising documents and photos that would be used as blackmail if she ever told anyone about the group's existence. She was also told that another part of the initiation process was getting a small tattoo, but instead of a tattoo, the new members were told to undress, and the master branded them with a design that included Raniere's initials right above their pelvic area. Each woman was instructed to say, "Master, please brand me, it would be an honor." In 2020, Raniere was tried in court, where more than a dozen women came forward with statements regarding his psychological and sexual abuse. He was convicted of many crimes, including sex trafficking, racketeering, and child protection. Victims were as young as 15 years old. Raniere was sentenced to life in prison, but in a court filing, his lawyer wrote he is not sorry for his conduct or his choices. The most horrifying thing about all of these cults and other ones around the world is that these leaders had or have no remorse for what they're doing. They simply used weak-minded people and those who were in a spiral against their own will for their boost in social life. Ladies and gentlemen, if you liked this video, please consider liking and subscribing and commenting down below any cults you'd like to see talked about. As always, I'm AJ, and I'll see you in the next one.